Hi, I'm Judy from JudiKins. Wait a minute, you gotta look down here. Just move the camera just a little bit. There I am. Today, I'm gonna be making these shrunken treasures. So give me a minute to get myself together and let's get shrinking. The first project I'm going to make is this mosaic tile card. I actually didn't use real tiles, I used shrink plastic to create the tiles. I'm starting out with white shrink plastic, and instead of cutting it, I'm going to tear it. So you just tear the plastic, and one way it tears very easily, but the other way you have to actually cut it just a little bit to give it a start. The next thing that I'm going to do is take my heat tool and I'm going to shrink the plastic. I'm shrinking the plastic, and you notice how the plastic curls. So I'm using a little chopstick here to hold the plastic down. Once I'm done shrinking, I'm going to use a stamp to flatten the plastic. My friend Mary Jo came up with this technique strictly by accident. What she did was she was using the back of her stamp to press down on the plastic to straighten it out, and by accident she used the rubber part of her stamp. When she pulled off the stamp, you can see you got the impression of the image in the plastic. Now, the way that I'm going to color that is I use a little diamond glaze that I tint with dye-based ink. Now, diamond glaze is a clear adhesive, so when that ink in the diamond glaze dries on the plastic, I have this nice glossy coating. And I'm going to mix that with a paintbrush here. So just pull in the diamond glaze to the ink, and you see I get this beautiful blue color. The next thing is to paint that directly onto the plastic. And you notice the diamond glaze puddles in the recesses of the plastic, and it gives it this definite dimension. This is going to take about 15 minutes to dry. I have some finished pieces here that are already dry, and I'll show you how I mount them. I'm going to mount my pieces onto this mosaic tape. The mosaic tape is a double-sided adhesive that's easy to work with. It's a paper tape, which makes it easy to tear. Now, I'm just going to place my pieces of tile directly onto the tape, and you see how fun that is. I have a finished piece over here to show you how I'm going to add the grout. I just dump the glass beads. I have these silver glass beads, and I dump it over the exposed adhesive on the tape. You shake off the excess beads, and now you have these beads that create the grout in the tile. To mount this onto my background paper, you just pull off the backing and attach that directly to the paper here. I have another piece of mosaic tape that I'm going to put on the back to mount this onto my card. Again, peel off the backing and just mount that directly onto my card. For my next project, I'm going to use clear shrink plastic to create this beach glass. So I have the clear shrink plastic here, and again I'm going to tear this because I want my glass pieces to look like they've just broken and rolled up along the ocean shore there. And I'm just going to tear it and shrink it over a piece of paper. I'm going to have my stamp ready, and what's nice about this technique is you can choose all different types of stamps. It doesn't have to be a small stamp, it could be a really large stamp. The reason why I'm shrinking it over a piece of paper is because that gives it the frosted texture. And while the plastic is hot, I'm going to press my stamp right into the plastic. You just peel off the plastic from the paper, and it has this frosted look from the texture of the paper. To color the plastic, I'm going to use diamond glaze with a little ink again. Squeeze out that dime-sized diameter of diamond glaze and use a small drop of ink. And I'm going to paint that onto the shiny side of my plastic with my paintbrush. And you see that the diamond glaze just flows into all those crevices to give this a texture and a lot of different colors. I have some finished pieces here that you can see. This is the diamond glaze side, and this is the frosted side. This is the side that looks like beach glass. Now, to show you how my layout goes together. I have this photograph here that my husband took of the sand instead of the people on the beach, but I actually turned it into a background paper or pattern paper. I just blew this up and printed it out. The next photograph that I have is of my nephew on the beach here, and I wanted a panoramic photo, so I blew that up and I cropped it so that it creates the panoramic. Because the pattern is so busy, I wanted to lighten that a little bit, so I'm using a piece of vellum so you could still see the paper through the vellum, but it's muted, so it's a little faded out. I have a die cut here of the word beachcomber, and that's going to be my title. I took some wire and added some seashells onto the wire with a few fibers to create a piece that looks like seagrass. And this is going to be my border embellishment along the side of the page here. I attached the two ends on the back of the paper. Next, I'm going to take my beach glass and attach that to my layout. And the way that I do that is I use a little trio tape and just set that down, pull the tape, make sure that it's attached to the tape, and then pull off and glue that right down, making sure that you have the frosted side up. Next, I'm just going to keep adding pieces here to finish my layout. For my last project, I'm using black shrink plastic for the embellishments for my frame. Because my frame is a specific size, I need to make sure that it will shrink to the proper size here. So if you download the design guide, I have a formula in there that's going to be really easy for you to use. I have a cut piece of plastic that's cut to a certain size here, and I'm going to shrink that with my heat tool. I just want to make sure that it doesn't blow away. And I like to shrink from the top and the bottom, gives it a little bit more even heat. And be sure you press your stamp into the plastic while the plastic is still hot. Now you can see the impression in the plastic. Now color this with gold metallic marker, and I like using this metallic marker because it's water soluble, which makes it child safe. And so this is a fun project that you can do with your children. I have a finished tile here to show you how I'm going to attach it to the frame. I'm going to use the mosaic tape on the back of my tile. You just peel off the backing and just make sure that it's nice and straight and press right down. I have these little black pieces that I've shrunk, but I didn't color them in. You just peel off the backing and add that to your frame. So let me show you what all my projects look like when they're done. This is my finished frame. It's very geometric and it looks very Tuscan. Next, I have my page layout, and you can see that my border is tucked in the back here, and I also have all of my beach glass. Some of the beach glass, I didn't press a stamp into it, just like Mary Jo's original technique. And finally, I have my finished mosaic tile card, and you can see how great it looks because the plastic has been torn. So pick up some shrink plastic and make some treasures of your own, but don't shrink yourself.
For step-by-step instructions on how to create this week's project, download the design guide featuring special make-it-your-own bonus tips.